Hi guys, welcome back. Remember when you were a teenager and you could sleep 4 hours, eat junk food, train hard, and bounce back the next day like nothing happened? Now you tweak your back picking something up off the floor and you're still feeling it 2 weeks later. This is not your imagination. And it's not just aging in a vague, inevitable sense. There is a precise, documented biological reason your body's ability to repair itself starts declining, and scientists just identified one of the main mechanisms responsible for it for the very first time. In the next few minutes, you're going to discover the exact cellular mechanism behind why healing slows as you age. The January 2026 UCLA study, published in the journal Science, that finally identified a specific protein acting as a brake on your body's repair system. Why a process called inflammaging is silently working against your regeneration every single day. Why your stem cell output drops by roughly 50% between the ages of 25 and 50, and exactly what the current research says you can do to meaningfully slow this process and support your body's repair capacity starting today. Let's get into it. Your body heals through an extraordinarily complex cascade of biological events. When tissue is damaged, specialized cells flood the injury site, inflammation begins the initial repair process, and then critically, stem cells are recruited to rebuild the damaged tissue. Stem cells are your body's master repairers. They are undifferentiated cells capable of transforming into the specific cell type needed: muscle cells, bone cells, connective tissue, wherever the damage has occurred. Your body maintains populations of these stem cells throughout your tissues, held in reserve specifically for moments of repair and regeneration. In youth, this system works with remarkable efficiency. Injury occurs, stem cells activate rapidly, repair begins, recovery is fast. But here's what almost nobody tells you about what happens over time. Research shows that stem cell functionality begins declining measurably in your 30s. By age 50, your hematopoietic stem cell output, the stem cells responsible for blood, immune cells, and much of your body's regenerative signaling, has dropped by approximately 50% compared to your levels at age 25, half in roughly 2 decades. And this decline doesn't happen dramatically or suddenly. It happens gradually, quietly, system by system, year by year, which is precisely why most people don't notice it until they're already dealing with the consequences. But here's where most people get this completely wrong. Most people assume this is simply inevitable, just cells wearing out. Nothing more interesting than general wear and tear. The actual biology is far more fascinating than that. And a study published in January 2026 in the journal Science by a team at UCLA has identified something that changes how we should understand this entire process. The UCLA researchers were studying aging muscle stem cells, the specific stem cell population responsible for repairing and rebuilding muscle tissue after injury, and they identified a protein called NDRG1 that exists at 3.5 times higher levels in aging muscle stem cells compared to young ones. NDRG1, they discovered, acts as what the researchers described as a cellular brake. It suppresses a signaling pathway called mTOR, a pathway that normally promotes stem cell activation, proliferation, and the initiation of tissue repair. In simple terms, in older tissue, this protein is essentially pumping the brakes on your repair system before it can get fully started. To test whether NDRG1 was actually responsible for the slower healing seen in aging, the researchers allowed mice to age to the equivalent of roughly 75 human years, then blocked NDRG1's activity in their muscle stem cells. The aged stem cells immediately began behaving like young cells again. They reactivated quickly, muscle repair accelerated dramatically. But here's the twist. And this is the part that makes this discovery genuinely nuanced rather than just a simple villain story. When NDRG1 was blocked entirely, fewer stem cells survived over time. The researchers concluded that NDRG1 isn't simply a malfunction of aging. It appears to be a biological trade-off, the body sacrificing speed of repair in individual injuries in exchange for preserving the overall stem cell population for the long term. Faster repair now, fewer stem cells later. This changes everything about how we should think about why healing slows. It's not just damage accumulating randomly. Your own biology is making a deliberate, if frustrating, trade-off as you age, but this UCLA finding is only one piece of a larger picture. There is a second process silently compounding the stem cell decline, and it's called inflammaging. This term, now widely used in longevity research, describes a state of chronic, low-grade systemic inflammation that develops gradually with age, operating below the threshold of obvious symptoms for years. Unlike acute inflammation, the targeted short-term response your immune system deploys to fight injury or infection, which is completely necessary and beneficial, inflammaging is a persistent background state. It creates constant inflammatory signals throughout your tissues with no specific injury to resolve. And this chronic inflammatory background creates a serious problem for your stem cells specifically. Stem cells depend on clear, specific signals to know where to go and what to do. They are recruited to sites of damage by precise chemical messaging, but the constant inflammatory noise of inflammaging interferes with that signaling. Stem cells become less able to home accurately to damaged tissue. The repair process becomes slower, less coordinated, and less complete. The UCLA research identified NDRG1 as a molecular brake. Inflammaging is the background noise that stops the engine from running cleanly in the first place. Both are happening simultaneously as you age. There is also a third mechanism worth understanding, the accumulation of what scientists call senescent cells. As cells age and sustain damage, they stop dividing and enter a dormant state called cellular senescence. A healthy young immune system efficiently clears these senescent cells, but as we age, both the accumulation rate increases and the immune clearance rate slows. Senescent cells begin accumulating in tissues throughout the body. And here's the specific problem. Senescent cells don't just sit there passively. They actively secrete inflammatory molecules, a cocktail researchers have called the senescence-associated secretory phenotype, or SASP. This secretion contributes directly to the inflammaging state we just discussed, and directly damages nearby healthy cells and stem cells, impairing their regenerative function. Three interconnected mechanisms: the cellular brake on stem cell activation, the chronic inflammatory background, the accumulating senescent cells leaking inflammatory signals, all three compounding each other, all three progressively more active from your 30s onward. So what does the current research actually support for slowing this process? Exercise remains the most consistently evidenced intervention available, but there's a specific and important nuance the research reveals here. The same exercise stimulus that triggered a strong stem cell response at age 25 registers a significantly weaker response in the same person at age 45. This doesn't mean exercise stops working. It means the dose required to generate a meaningful regenerative response increases with age. Consistent resistance training combined with aerobic work produces the best documented outcomes for maintaining stem cell function, slowing muscle stem cell decline, and reducing the inflammatory markers associated with inflammaging. Periodic fasting has produced some of the most striking results in stem cell regeneration research. A study in MIT's Cell Stem Cell Journal found that 24-hour fasting significantly boosted intestinal stem cell regeneration by shifting cellular metabolism from glucose to fatty acid oxidation. Walter Longo's research at USC demonstrated immune stem cell regeneration following extended fasting protocols. The caveat is that most dramatic results have been observed with intestinal and immune stem cells specifically, and the evidence for other tissue types remains more preliminary. NAD plus supplementation is one of the most actively researched areas in longevity science right now. NAD plus is essential for DNA repair in stem cells, and its levels decline significantly with age. Research from David Sinclair's lab at Harvard found that NAD plus precursor supplementation, using either NMN or NR, typically in the range of 250 to 500 milligrams daily, restored stem cell function and muscle regenerative capacity in aging subjects to levels more comparable to younger ones. The human trial data is growing but still maturing. The mechanistic evidence, however, is strong. Diet quality has a direct impact on the inflammatory environment your stem cells operate within. Blueberries, fatty fish, dark leafy greens, walnuts, and cruciferous vegetables have been among the best studied for their capacity to reduce the chronic low-grade inflammation that constitutes inflammaging, and to provide the antioxidant and anti-inflammatory environment stem cells need to function optimally. The chronic inflammatory load driven by ultra-processed food, high sugar intake, and excess refined oils is not a secondary concern here. It is a direct, documented suppressor of stem cell signaling accuracy. And sleep. The same deep sleep lymphatic clearing process we've discussed in previous videos, the nightly maintenance cycle that runs most intensively during non-REM sleep, is also the window during which your body performs the majority of its cellular repair and protein synthesis. Growth hormone, which directly signals stem cell release and activity, is secreted primarily during deep sleep. Chronic sleep deprivation doesn't just make you tired, it directly suppresses the hormonal signaling that your stem cell system depends on to function at its full capacity. Let me bring everything together. The reason your body stops healing as efficiently after your 30s isn't a mystery or inevitable entropy. It's a set of specific, documented, increasingly well understood biological processes, a molecular brake on stem cell activation, a chronic inflammatory background interfering with repair signaling, and accumulating senescent cells actively sabotaging the regenerative environment around them. The January 2026 UCLA study published in Science didn't just identify a protein. It showed us that our biology isn't simply breaking down randomly. It's making deliberate trade-offs, prioritizing stem cell longevity over individual repair speed in ways that make biological sense but produce real felt consequences as we age. Understanding that trade-off is the beginning of being able to work with it rather than simply against it. Exercise consistently and progressively, eat in a way that reduces chronic inflammation, sleep long enough for growth hormone and cellular repair to do their work, and stay close to the emerging research on NAD+ and fasting protocols, because this area of science is moving fast. The real question was never just, why does my body heal more slowly? The real question is, are you giving your body the inputs it needs to keep the repair system running as long as possible? If this changed how you think about recovery and aging, subscribe because we go this deep into the science of your body every single week. See you in the next one.